I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu. And I'm that spitter, baby. They don't want you to see, but everybody's out to Capitol Hill's rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and plan to getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. Me? I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
That trade season is here, a real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz, and I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game, I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers, I'm knocking my own flame, I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your panty line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on to the hearse. Party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete. I'm a verbal athlete, deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping, but I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building, my whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I am your co-host, Trey Holiday. Want to extend a happy Wednesday to all of you out there. And, you know, I know it's a little bit, again, I'm using the word soggy this week, guys. We're seeing a lot of rain out there, but you know what? We still got a lot of cheer in here today. And I'm going to start the show off without my co-host with the most big O, but he is at the live press conference right now with the mayor. Lots going on with this OPA SPD hoax investigation. And we're going to be getting into that a little bit later on in the show. Really hoping that Omari can make it back to set so we can really discuss what's going on there at the press conference. But we want to welcome you to the Morning Update Show. And as always, right now is a perfect time to tag and share the stream. Please tag and share the stream with folks that you feel could benefit from culturally relevant news emanating right here from the Emerald City. Want to also give a big shout out to our partners over at the South Seattle Emerald and at KBCS 91.3 over at Bellevue College. Right now, also, you guys, is a great time to remind you that you can listen to the Morning Update Show anywhere that you listen to podcasts. We got SoundCloud coming to you in the links, but we also got the Morning Update Show on Spotify, Google, iTunes, anywhere that you find podcasts. You can just look up Converge Media Network. Sorry, I want to make sure I get that right so you guys know exactly where to look it up. But you know what? We're trying to make sure that we're doing this show in a diversified way. So if you can't watch us, you can definitely listen to us. We're keeping this message alive every single day right here on our show about vaccines. They are available and ready and free. You guys, Salman is putting the link in there for you guys to check it out through Seattle Public Health, King County. But this is something that is on the rise. We're seeing it everywhere. Omari and I talk about it every day because it is a real thing that families are out here dealing with on a daily basis. And I don't know if for you guys out there, but I know one thing's for sure, medications are flying off the shelves, even all the over-counter stuff. You go to a lot of stores right now and you're seeing a lot of gaps in that section because a lot of people are sick, whether it's a combination of the flu and corona. They're calling it flu rona. They're also calling it Delta Rona. Like, there's all of these new variants and kind of mixtures coming out because that's what viruses do. And so if you are looking for a vaccine, looking to get tested, looking for a booster, or as we always love to say, if you're still hesitant about the vaccine and you have some questions about all of these variants or what else you can be doing, maybe more homeopathic remedies to protect yourself and your family, please click that link. There's information available. And also, if you can't really leave your house or if you're hesitant to do so because the virus is out here alive and well, check out the opportunities for public health to come to your house and get you vaccinated at home in the comfort of your home. So it's a large discussion. I know many people out there are still having it. So we want to make sure that we do our part here at the Morning Update Show to keep the message alive and well. Also, we want to talk about this. We got an overlay here from For Culture. They are giving away some money, you guys. And if you are a cultural producer, this is the fund for you. They are giving grants from $1,000 all the way up to $12,000. It expands the spectrum when we talk about arts, culture, and people that are producing artworks. There's so many different ways that we see artistry formulate right here in our city and beyond. And For Culture is doing something very intentional to bring funding to people who are consider themselves real producers of art and culture. And ultimately, there's a wide variety of ways that you guys can connect with this effort. Saman is putting the links there, and we will be running our ad from our very own T-Dub, who breaks it all down for you to give you some more details. But shout out to For Culture for their intentionality. This is a sector that, as many sectors, just been very hit hard with COVID. And so we want to make sure that our cultural producers out there, folks that are, doing artworks and everything else, can really benefit from this relief fund. So please check out For Culture and get connected there. This show is really interesting for me because I get to talk to two of my favorite folks, Mike Davis from the South Seattle Emerald and our very own Clapback Culture. He's going to be joining me shortly here. And also later on in the show, I got my guy, Brian Callanan from the Seattle Channel. We're going to break down some things that's going on over there at Seattle Channel and also what Seattle news, views, and brews. So with that, come on, let's bring in Mike Davis.
Hey, good morning, Trey.
Hey, good morning, Mike. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm well as well. Thankful to be on this side of any type of sickness going around out there, man. It's real.
Yes, it's really out here.
Well, we know that right now, O is over at the mayor's press conference, and they are discussing this SPD hoax. And I think, maybe we didn't get to touch on it yet last week because it came out like later on that day when you were on the show. So let me get your thoughts about this. I mean, this is something that's been rolling out. We're seeing more information kind of come out and really a response from the mayor's administration around how to root these kind of ruses out of the Seattle Police Department. What are your thoughts, Mike?
Now, I got a lot of thoughts. I really do. But I want to ask before that, I heard that O was on King 5. Is there a clip? Is it okay if I see the clip before we dive in?
You know what, Mike? He sure was. And I was going to get into that with you. And so we can go ahead and start there. Salman, please roll the clip of our guy, our very own Big O on King 5, talking about this SPD hoax.
The landscape may have changed, but it is hard to forget how a Capitol Hill neighborhood became the chop and the standoff that started it.
We live streamed it.
Omari Salisbury was there the whole time.
People are trying to look at this in some kind of vacuum where it's just police and protesters. Nah, it's a whole neighborhood.
A journalist for independent Converge Media who months later after tensions calmed, looked through archived video and heard what seemed like an odd comment from a protester.
Hey everybody, the Proud Boys are on the way. If you have a gun, you legally own it and know how to use it, go get it.
He tracked down police transmissions from that specific night.
It looks like we've got possible fight brewing between the Proud Boys and another group.
And forwarded it to Seattle's Office of Police Accountability, asking questions about evidence to back up the account. OPA said last week it was a police ruse, a legally allowable law enforcement tactic signed off on by SPD command staff that went undocumented and unpunished.
I, for one, believe that ruses need additional supervisory oversight. It must be documented.
Today, at a Seattle City Council meeting, Salisbury was credited with exposing the uncommon technique.
This was a really poor decision from all aspects of SPD officers involved in this case.
That cannot be how we operate.
The council did hint today that there could be changes by way of legislation, although no timeline was given.
The police haven't told the full story. They'll tell you like, well, who told you to say Proud Boys? Everybody looks at each other. Well, I don't know. It's like the Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying? They're all pointing at each other. Chain of command.
Omari says legislation will only do so much.
The damage that this might have done now to the credibility of our organization wasn't worth this.
But like any good journalist would do, he'll continue to review the events of that fateful summer to make sure certain things don't happen again.
It's important that people continue to ask questions.
In Seattle, Chris Daniels, King 5 News.
Wow. I mean, there he is breaking it down. And it's things that we talk about right here on the Morning Update show and the Converge set, Black Media Matter studio all the time, Mike. What are your thoughts there?
I think that it's a really tough situation. I mean, if you think back to what was going on at the time that this ruse took place, I believe this is like right after someone had like drove in with their car and then somebody gets shot. And, you know, the SPD doing this, it's irresponsible. It was irresponsible and it was dangerous. And as you hear from in that clip, you know, it led to the folks there feeling like they needed to protect themselves. So now there's a call to arms. Now there's this sense that folks that were in that zone needed to protect themselves when really it was just SPD performing a hoax. But that hoax led, I mean, this situation was already tense. Police should be there to de-escalate. This is literally the opposite of de-escalation. I think my biggest issue here, honestly, though, was the back end. Like, why did it take Omari and speculation to actually put all of this together? Like, where was the actual police oversight? And then when we talk about police accountability, I mean, how can we ever get to a place of police accountability when we can never actually hold the police accountable? When you look at the investigation from OPA, they didn't even name the officers by name. Now, Seattle Times did an investigation and they found one of those officers, but in OPA's investigation, there were only 2 officers that they deemed actually did anything wrong. And surprise, surprise, neither of those officers are with the SPD now. So it's like, they did this thing. We all know that it's horrible. It damaged the trust between the police and the community. And now it's past the 180 days that the Police Officers Guild has listed as, you know, officers can't be punished past this window of time. The two officers who we would want to hold accountable no longer work for SPD. So now it's kind of like, yeah, we did it, so what? And we're supposed to move on. And at some point, we actually need some level of accountability. We have the conversations of abolish the police. We have the conversations of defund the police. We have the other side that says back the blue. I think you got people like me who are in the middle. I mean, when I look at South Seattle in particular and all the violence that we're seeing, all the shootings, we need someone that can come in and keep our community safe. But you can't have trust between the community and the police if only one side is ever held accountable. When folks in the community commit crimes, the police are coming at us with the full extent of the law. When police use force unnecessarily, or when police do a ruse or a hoax or they break any rule, it's like they always find ways to let the police off without being held accountable. And it's hard because we see it on the national level and the local level. We see it with the Biden administration, how they made the promises with the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. And this was supposed to be all of these robust measures that were actually going to take steps toward actual police accountability. The Democrats failed to pass that. Here on the local level, we have another new mayor, and Mayor Harrell comes in talking about he wants to bring people together, and his view of policing and partnering police with the community, and he has all of these great ideas. Well, how can any of that ever come to fruition if the community knows that the police act with impunity? If the community can't trust the police to do their jobs by the letter of the law, if the community can't trust the police to be held accountable when they do break rules, then how will we ever get to this magical place of community trust with police?
Man, Mike, you break it down so eloquently, my friend. And the truth of the matter is one thing I learned there in that King 5 clip with Omari. I'm glad that they were able to really showcase that this was a journalist digging deep. And that's what really brought out this investigation at all. Had it not been for Omari's inquisitiveness and his journalistic intent, we may never have known that this ruse even played out through the SPD. And that's really the truth. It did take a journalist in this case, and yet it shouldn't. But one of the glaring things for me, Mike, was the fact that these kinds of ruses are legal. Like that they didn't even actually break the law by lying through the police scanner to hope for some type of fear tactic to disperse the protesters in Capitol Hill. That was their intent when they did this. However, the idea is that they can legally do this, and hey, we can put something out there and try to rouse the people up and get them to kind of do something that we need them to do. This is something that's really intriguing for me. And as you talk about the discussions that are out there around reimagining policing. Yes, on one side, it's this extreme of like, no, we need to just abolish the police in totality. On the other side, the other extreme is we need more policing because that's really what the issue is. Ultimately, I think that there's a middle ground here, kind of as you were saying. And the ideas of reimagining policing is really where I sit. I sit in that pocket because it is that there are certain neighborhoods that are very different, right? And they don't deal with the police in the same ways that other neighborhoods do. And if I'm being specific, I would say Black and Indigenous and Latino communities deal with policing very differently than a community in Mercer Island or in Medina. It's a huge difference, and a huge, I think, difference also in perspective, because in Medina or in Mercer Island, they actually feel protected and safe by the tactics the police have to use to keep their neighborhoods the way they are. However, if you're talking about South Seattle, if you're talking about White Center, Burien, now some of the South King County cities outside of Seattle, we see that there is a huge disconnect between police and community. And this is why there needs to be a change in how policing happens. Maybe it's only for specific communities, because maybe in Medina and Redmond and Mercer Island, maybe they want to keep it the way that it is, which I think is up to them. But we have to be very specific here when we talk about communities that have dealt with these kind of police ruses and the negative effects of them, police brutality and abuse of power. All of that is something that I think is very centralized in certain communities. So I really appreciate you saying that, because I think it's so true. But yet we have to understand there's a wide spectrum of folks out there, and this is why it gets hard to have a blanketed approach. So I'm really interested to dive in later on in the show with Omari and really see where the mayor is coming from, because as a new mayor, Mayor Harrell has an opportunity to be innovative in his approach. And I know part of, what he said on the campaign trail was talking about adding more police in certain respects. I think he may have even made comment to that during this press conference. But Mike, I really appreciate you saying that. And particularly as we think about stories coming from South Seattle, there are so many different ways that South Seattleites have dealt with policing. What are some of the things going on right now in South Seattle that you're going to be having coming out in the Emerald?
I'm writing a story this week. Actually, I'm dipping into arts and culture this week. I'm excited about the story. There's a local kid, graduated from Garfield High School, grew up here. Both of his parents are documentary filmmakers. He just made a movie. It's called Skagit. It's a horror movie. He made it during the pandemic. So like he went out to the Skagit Valley in this remote location with some actors and this real cerebral psychedelic type of horror movie. It's very, very Seattle. I hope people get to see it. One of the things that jumped out at me was the music. He had a lot of dope local hip hop artists that folks will recognize that did the soundtrack. I am not allowed to give out spoilers, but shout out to Nick Thompson and his film Skagit. And that is the piece that I'm working on for South Seattle Emerald this week.
Now there we go. Let's go ahead and clear the air. Let's talk about some amazing, phenomenal young folks and what they're doing. I absolutely adore this. I'll tell you this. Obviously, my heart lies in creative field, right? And so I love hearing that people are taking their talent to another level and betting on themselves. I think that's such a large part of it when we talk about Black creatives, particularly in a city where we're a small percentage. It's great to see a young person say, you know what, I'm inspired by the work of my parents, but also I'm going to take it to a whole nother level and do something that's this kind of psychedelic, scary film. I'm excited to see it, Mike, and I hope that, we can get some insight in your piece about how we can find it, how we can support this young brother, because for me, I think that that's also where we come from when we talk about, supporting our young people. They got to know that when they create something like this, that the community and beyond and at large is going to show up and show out. And I gotta say, it's something that I learned from Issa Rae, right? Issa Rae said, look, you don't network up, you network out, right? And so he did a great job there of networking out. So it's great to hear that, Mike. I'm glad that you're stepping into some arts and culture, my friend. How was it for you to be able to learn a little bit more about this young man, and also for you to be doing something in the arts and culture realm, which I don't think you normally do?
Well, I way back in the day, I did, and I just, the world has changed, so I've kind of just had to shift. But whenever I have that chance to get back into arts and culture, I really, really love it. As far as the film, the plan one day is to have it at Arc Lodge. So, it's right there on Rainier, local. It'll be here. But right now he's doing the circuit of the film festival. So, he's got it entered. And when you're doing film festivals, they usually don't like you to release your film before it actually hits the festival. So when he's done with the circuit, he's going to bring it right back here, and everybody on the local level will be able to come out and support.
Oh man, shout out to him again. And thank you so much for uplifting that young brother. That's the kind of stories that we need more of, Mike. So I appreciate your work on that. As always, you're not just representing South Seattle Emerald, always representing clapback culture right here, Converge Media's own. Tell us a little bit about what we can expect tomorrow night on Clapback.
Oh, we got some heat. We got some heat tomorrow night. We're going to kick it off with Joe Biden speaking about voting rights in Georgia. There was a Black voting rights group that actually boycotted Joe Biden's speech. They felt that instead of coming to Georgia to blow hot smoke, he needed to stay in Washington, D.C. and go talk to them senators and actually get some work done. So shout out to them. I'm right there with them. Ahmaud Arbery's killers were sentenced. 2 of them got life, no parole. 1 of them got life with the possibility of parole. Unfortunately, we lost Sidney Poitier. And there is allegedly, and I heard this from Julia, I got to holla at Julia, but she said that there's supposed to be one vaccine coming that's supposed to be able to clear you of all COVID variants and the flu. So when we're talking about flu, Rona, and the cold vid and all of this, man, there might be a one-stop shot. You just pop and you might be good.
Oh, wow. I can't wait to dive in. I know Jules is going to be joining us tomorrow as well. So she'll be giving us her take on what we can expect on Clapback. Man, Mike, as always, thank you so much for joining us on these amazing Wednesdays. Love hearing what South Seattle Emerald has going on, and always love catching up with you, brother. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Trey. I'll see y'all next week.
Absolutely. Wow. I mean, always so much to dive into. And clearly, this SPD hoax story is not going away lightly. Up after this short break, I'm going to be diving into it with Brian Callanan of Seattle Channel, also of News, Views, and Brews. That's coming up after this short break. Stay tuned. You guys are watching the Morning Update Show.
Hey guys, Besa Gordon here, and before heading to Belize, Trey Holiday and I had to make sure we linked up with our good friends over at Market Street Shoes to, of course, grab a few things for the trip. From bags to socks, shoes, sunglasses, earrings, and more. Before going on any trip, make sure you stop at Market Street Shoes. Trust me, you'll find just what you need to make your trip not only enjoyable, but fashionable.
Hey y'all, T-Dub here, letting you know about another art funding opportunity. For Culture Recovery funding for individuals is available now, and here's what you need to know to apply. Are you a cultural producer who has been impacted by the pandemic? If you answered yes, but what is a cultural producer? Well, you are a cultural producer if your work, paid or unpaid, is dedicated to creating cultural experiences in any discipline or at any stage of your career. Some examples include exhibit designers, museums educations, archivists, restoration professionals, curators, history researchers, artists, of course, and more. In understanding that grant language can sometimes feel exclusive to specific people, using terms like cultural producer is one of the ways For Culture seeks to broaden its scope of applicants. In other words, this funding is for you. And look, the application fatigue is real. I get it, they get it. But the For Culture staff is here to walk you through it. They have grants from $1,000 to $12,000, so please don't miss out. The deadline to apply is Wednesday, February 2nd. Head to forculture.org/recovery to get information on virtual group workshops, application support, language translation, and more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday. And right now, joining me on this set of the Morning Update Show is my guy, Brian Callanan from the Seattle Channel and Seattle News, Views, and Brews. What's up, Brian?
And we got a good show coming on Seattle News, Views, and Brews tonight, and there's a lot of headlines to cover, too.
Absolutely. I mean, I want to ask you, because we're starting off with this. This is really huge news still. Yeah. A lot coming out with this OPA SPD hoax investigation. Yeah. What are some of your thoughts?
It's really interesting to see how this is going to play out. I know Omari was actually in the press conference this morning asking some very important questions about where do we go from here? And that's the piece that I'm most interested in. And I look at that because in terms of these ruses or hoax or whatever you want to call it, they are legal it's legal for officers to do that under state law right now, but there's a limit to it. If it goes too far, if it turns into something that is so shocking that it would cause some bigger problems there, then the state law has some protections against that. Did officers go too far here? It looks like the OPA is saying, at least for these two officers who were in command, yes, they did. However, those two officers have since left the department. So in terms of the accountability, that's trouble. But I think what Councilmember Herbold is asking for, and she's the chair of the Public Safety Committee, she's asking for something such that when officers, whenever they even use a ruse, that needs to be documented, because right now that is not the case. As Councilmember Herbold was saying, they actually had to go through all of this different footage, all of this different radio chat or whatever else to actually find out who these officers were when these ruses actually happened, because there was nothing to tell them, okay, you have to report when this happened. So that's the long-term piece I'm looking at, to figure out if there is a way to actually make sure when these ruses are used, they are reported and they are investigated, because there has to be some follow-up here. Something like this where you're saying that armed people are out from a right-wing extremist group, whatever else, that is really shocking. It should be shocking. The mayor has certainly raised the bar on this by holding the press conference today. Now we'll see if he follows through. He has a new director of public safety, the OPA's former head man, and Andrew Meyerberg. So we'll see what it's going to be like working with them together, and the city council too, to see if something changes.
You know what? I love how you wrap it up, and I agree wholeheartedly. I think one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is when we talk about reimagining policing. Is this a ruse tactic? Is it something that should be legal? Is it something that needs to be there? Particularly when we're also dealing with this, other conflating issue of abuse of power.
Sure.
So that's one thing that I'm looking forward to here.
And I wanted to just jump in on that. I think this whole ruse concept, some officers would say it is necessary in some cases if they're on an undercover investigation, whatever else. That was not the case here. And there's another case you might remember from back in 2019 when officers were investigating a hit and run crash. And they were talking to this person who was involved in the crash and said, hey, you know what? You put this person in critical condition. That person who was involved in the crash is like, oh my goodness, I put someone in critical condition. And later on, less than a week later, he killed himself. And the OPA at that point actually said, okay, there's something wrong that happened here. There was an officer that was suspended because of that. But it's that type of activity where you're disinforming people, not just misinforming, but purposefully misinforming people. They call it disinformation there. When you disinform people like that, it raises a lot of questions, certainly one of trust, which is a big, big issue for the Seattle Police Department right now. And I really see the mayor trying to jump on this, hopefully trying to get ahead of this. And again, when we talk about changing the culture of the police department, reimagining what police are supposed to be doing, this is not a chapter that the police are going to be proud of.
Yeah, Brian, you're 100% correct. And I really appreciate you highlighting that other case.
Yeah.
And this is exactly why when we talk about the opportunities for change, it is there because we have enough examples now. There's enough data to kind of showcase a story and really pinpoint the picture here, so that other people can get it who have not been involved in such cases.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for clearing that up and actually adding that to the discussion.
Yeah.
Now, one other huge thing going on right now is the release of this eviction moratorium, Brian. And for me, this is really huge. I mean, I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, this was one of the main reasons why the mayor held his press conference today, was to talk about this eviction moratorium, which was set to expire on January 15th. Really, one of the first things that he had to do in office was handle this eviction moratorium. So he decided today that he would extend it 30 days. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot of time. And in terms of the different housing providers that I've talked to, the different people who are actually handing out some of the relief money, they're saying that's probably not enough time to solve all of the issues here. But the mayor is trying to look at this and say, okay, we're going to at least take this 30 days to get a better idea of how the money's getting out there. This rental relief issue has been a big, big problem for King County. He wants to look at how it's getting out there, if indeed there are better ways to streamline it from a city perspective. And there's one other piece that I wanted to pass along. I took some notes on this as the actual press conference was happening this morning. He was saying that at the end of this 30 days, he's going to make sure that at the end of it, the actual city council protection, a 6-month protection, goes into place for people who are not able to pay because of COVID issues related to their finances. So there are a number of different protections in place. I won't say that after 30 days, we're going to see a big cliff of people that are going to be becoming evicted, but I think you will hear from some housing providers out there and some advocates who try to make sure we don't have as many homeless people as we have out there. Some of those advocates are going to say too, this is going to be a little interesting in the middle of February here. It's supposed to expire now on February 14th. No indications yet that he would extend that in any way, but I am sure he's going to get a lot of pressure from these different advocates, because at the end of the day, the eviction moratorium, that is just a Band-Aid on a much larger problem of affordable housing, which is a big, big systemic issue out there. It has to do with homelessness too. There's an intersection there too. So I think the mayor is trying to take a little bit of a pause here and try to see what's going on. But it's going to be a very interesting next 30 days as he gets hammered by a lot of different people who are saying, hey, we need more time here to get through this.
This is exactly why. I mean, ever since we've been dealing with this pandemic, first off, the pandemic is global. Let's just be real. That's the scale we're talking about here. So when we think about this pandemic, we can think about it from a national perspective. We understand every other country is dealing with it in their own way, but we have to think about it, I think, from, okay, how is America going to deal with it? So I see the pandemic as a federal issue. And I honestly see all of the byproducts of the pandemic as a federal issue. The idea that affordable housing or this eviction moratorium, these are things to me that should be really being discussed at a federal level. And it's because every city, every county, every state is having to deal with this. And the idea is that it is up to, a governor, it's up to a mayor, it's up to, a city council. This to me is where it gets really, really blurred for me, Brian, because it makes absolutely no sense sense that we don't have some type of federal regulation around these evictions. There's no way that there's enough police force in any one county, city, state, or anywhere else that can actualize a huge large of evictions on people that are already suffering from other layers of this pandemic. So I have really seen this as like, and I get it. We talk about the small homeowners who are renting their homes. We understand that this is not only hitting, large corporations who own apartment buildings, but it's hitting the small guy as well. This is why, to me, I really, my hats go off to anybody working in this, because I really think that this should be coming from the presidential administration, and there should be a longer or larger way of like having relief for everybody.
Right. And I just looking at that, I think this is one of those situations where there was a federal eviction moratorium to start with the pandemic. But I think also, and maybe it's hindsight or however you want to look at it, you look at this, I don't think anybody was expecting that 2 years later, we'd still be talking about a pandemic. I don't say that to completely condone what the Biden administration is doing at all, but I think what we've seen is the Fed started with it. They distributed some money. And really, I think that's the way the system is supposed to be set up. Feds hand out the money. The different jurisdictions like the county, state, city, whatever else, they hand out the dollars. So I hear what you're saying. There's definitely some frustration in terms of national leadership on this. But in terms of where people actually interact in our area with the government, it is those local governments like the city, the county, and state. So I think that's the pathway, how we're going to get out of this. Is it perfect? No, but those are three agencies. There are three levels of agencies there, city, county, and state. They really need to get their act together with this, because I think 30 days from now, we are certainly not going to have a complete answer to this eviction moratorium. I'm concerned that we will, over the next couple months here, see a number of evictions. The county has been talking about that a lot. There are so many people that are still in the pipeline right now. We're talking about tens of thousands of people who have applied for aid, who've been promised aid, but still haven't gotten it. So this is a system that isn't working right now. I'm hoping the mayor can add some more fuel to the fire here in terms of taking care of the problem here. But I'm really concerned about what the next couple months are going to bring with this.
Yeah, I share your concern, honestly. And it's because, we know that there's people that are out there that are, so affected by COVID. It shut down certain industries. Certain industries are still recovering. I mean, here we are talking about, the arts and culture industry hugely impacted because a lot of things that they were doing were public facing, right? And so as events shut down, we're talking about music venues and artists and musicians. There's a lot of folks that are affected. And for me, I'm really like hopeful that we can use this as a lesson, because if we were not prepared before, right? Now what are we doing to prepare ourselves even more for something like a pandemic to hit us year over year? Having a longer range preparation plan. So we'll see how it plays out, Brian, but you're right. This is something that will be hitting local level of government regardless if it should or not. That's just a part of it. And I just go hats off to those who are trying to put their brains together to figure out how to protect the people, because that's really what government is about. But shooting over to a whole nother topic here.
We go.
My guy, man, Kevin, man, he's
I know.
gone. I gotta say, you guys were such a dynamic duo, and he really shown his brilliance over here on the Morning Update show all the time, and through other areas of Converge, and just really a huge loss. I'm still not over it, to be honest. I can only imagine that it's hitting you in a certain way.
It's tough. Kevin Schofield was a huge part of Seattle News, Views, and Brews. If you're watching out there, Kevin, miss you, love you, man. But it's great talking to him. I still talk to Kevin all the time, but it's one of these situations where the show must go on. I know he's doing some different things, so I decided to work with a transportation reporter for the Seattle Times, David Croman. He's my new partner in crime. You'll meet him at some point, I'm sure, but super smart guy. I wanted to make sure that I figured out someone who's even-keeled like Kevin is, someone who had a good knowledge of things going on at city government, state government, county government too. David, before he was at the Seattle Times, was at Crosscut and was their city hall reporter, and he covered a lot of different political news there. So he's a great guy. He's doing a lot of good stuff, and I'm looking forward to talking to him about all sorts of issues. His special focus on transportation is really cool, because that's another kind of issue that really affects so many other different issues out there. So I'm excited to work with David. It's going to be cool for the show going forward.
Well, I look forward to meeting David, and I love being able to hear that intro of him, because I do think that, in my mind, I was like, ooh, who is he going to get? Because Kevin's got some big shoes to fill. But, really getting somebody who's informed already and their work is really steeped in certain areas that he'll be able to speak to in terms of his expertise. That's amazing. And you guys, I'm sure, will have a great dynamic duo once again, you and David. So I'm looking looking forward to that. What can folks look forward to on Seattle News, Views, and Brews coming up tonight?
We're going to be talking about a few different things. We will be definitely talking about the eviction moratorium. We had to record the show before the mayor's press conference today, but we did talk about some of these larger issues that we've brought up here. We also are going to be talking about this SPD ruse situation, kind of what happens next with that. A lot of good information on that as well. And then drawing on David's expertise with the state legislative session. We're kind of previewing the start of the session, which is going on this week. We're talking about some of the different things that he's been researching when it comes to transportation. Specifically, our legislators last session, man, they did a lot of stuff, right? Last year, that was a big, big session. Police accountability, a whole bunch of other stuff. But they also had something that did not go through, and that was a major transportation package. And at the time, a number of our state legislators, Democrats out there, were saying, hey, you know what, we need to push for a big gas tax so we can get all these different projects done or whatever else. Looking into this year in the short session, hasn't really been a peep about that. Now, are there a number of different transportation issues around the state still? Absolutely. But is there an appetite during a short session and during an election year for legislators to be talking about taxes? I'm not so sure about that. So it's really interesting to get David's insight on that. He has a very good number of points to be making on that. But when you talk about these different larger issues on transportation here, I want it to be an ongoing conversation, but it's going to be really interesting to see what actually comes out of the state legislature this year, because they have a lot of other things to worry about. Unfortunately, I don't think transportation is going to get top billing.
Wow. And there it is. You know, this is why I just appreciate everybody doing their part, because we learn so much, right? I mean, here I am, I'm in Federal Way. And so I'm seeing the expansion of the light rail, right? But I understand that was a decision made years ago in order for us to even get the funding to do that work, right? And so the ideas of there being other transportation measures that need to be looked at, this is really interesting. And I do know that there's this whole dynamic, man. We talk about being an election year, legislators not wanting to do too much during election year. What's up with that, Brian? I mean, I'm not sure that I understand it all the way. I'm like, if you're there and things need to get done, do the things that need to get done.
I know. It's a reality of the situation, Trey, because the other piece to this that is very interesting. So the governor just put out his supplemental budget ask, basically, and he is asking for a ton of stuff. You might have seen last month, he was down in Ballard. He was saying, all right, we're going to invest more in housing. We're going to try to work on homelessness. We're going to put $100 million towards people preventing evictions, things of that nature. Big investment. So he was looking at a supplemental budget that was huge. I don't have the figure in front of me, but that $815 million alone that he was asking for with housing, big ticket item right there. So in terms of what the governor was putting out there, he's talking about a lot of dollars. And I think at least what I'm gleaning that the Democratic lawmakers in Olympia right now are looking at, they're like, okay, we've got a big ask from the governor here, but we've also got a big surplus in terms of how much money the state has on hand right now. And Republicans are saying, yeah, you're right, we got a surplus. We're at a 20-year high as to where we were, leading up to a couple of years ago. In the middle of the pandemic, we've got a lot of money in the state surplus right now. So a number of other states around the country are talking about state tax rebates, like sales tax rebates, things of that nature. Our state's really not talking about that right now. And I think that's an important piece to look ahead with. And it's one of these bellwether issues when you talk about elections. And I hear you. I get frustrated with that too. But this is one of those things that I think could really challenge that balance of power that we have in Olympia right now. You've got a Democrat in the governor's office. Democrats have a majority in the House and in the Senate too. Is that going to be challenged this year by a number of Republicans who are saying, wait a minute, you might be spending too much money. And here we are in the middle of a pandemic. We definitely don't need to be talking about new taxes. So I think it's an important conversation. Again, it can be frustrating with the election rigmarole, but it's something important to keep an eye on and watch what your legislators are doing too.
Yeah, this is the part of it. It's all of us being engaged in the process. And we say it here all the time on the Morning Update show that it really takes all of us to be holding our elected officials accountable and to be sitting in those questions, to be participating. One of the things that I said recently is that, with regard to the pandemic, hey, at least it opened up the legislative sessions for people to participate via Zoom.
That's right.
And so that really does give another opportunity for folks to stay engaged. Man, Brian, appreciate you so much for being on here. I know you got a jet. You are such a busy guy. We appreciate you for bringing your expertise on. Make sure folks know how they can catch up with Seattle News, Views, and Brews tonight.
I will do that. Thanks very much, Trey. If you want to check it out, Seattle News, Views, and Brews, it's on 7 o'clock. See the video version right here on Converge, or you can check it out on Twitter. I always post about it right there too. Catch me at Callanan, Seattle, if you want to check that out. But Seattle News, Views, and Brews, We really appreciate the people who are supporting the show, and it's great to have it on Converge Media. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brian. As Omari loves to say, one of the best voices in the business.
On.
We say it every time, every time. I
Back at
appreciate you so
Thank
much.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, you guys, what an amazing show already today. I'm hoping to be able to dive into some of the topics that were going on the mayor's press conference. I know there were some tough questions being asked of the mayor and his administration. Looking forward to kind of having a little bit of a recap of that after this short break. You guys stay tuned. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
In the depths of Belize, the travelers come across the waters, harvesting with their hands, learning of resilience rooted deep in the lands. Culture thriving like a fire ablaze, sizzling with a pop and a chop, sharing its ways. Knowledge simmers and grinds into the hearts and minds, cutting away from the surface stories and colonial lies, boiling it down, breaking its shell as the truth pours out and gets plated collectively with love. Spooned into bowls, feeding the soul. Garifuna, alive and strong at Palmetto Grove.
Hey y'all, T-Dub here, letting you know about another art funding opportunity. For Culture Recovery funding for individuals is available now, and here's what you need to know to apply. Are you a cultural producer who has been impacted by the pandemic? If you answered yes, but what is a cultural producer? Well, you are a cultural producer if your work, paid or unpaid, is dedicated to creating cultural experiences in any discipline or at any stage of your career. Some examples include exhibit designers, museums educations, archivists, restoration professionals, curators, history researchers, artists, of course, and more. In understanding that grant language can sometimes feel exclusive to specific people, using terms like cultural producer is one of the ways For Culture seeks to broaden its scope of applicants. In other words, this funding is for you. And look, the application fatigue is real. I get it, they get it. But the For Culture staff is here to walk you through it. They have grants from $1,000 to $12,000, so please don't miss out. The deadline to apply is Wednesday, February 2nd. Head to forculture.org/recovery to get information on virtual group workshops, application support, language translation, and more.
We invite you to be our guest at Disney's Beauty and the Beast. It's a tale as old as time in a brand new production by the Fifth Avenue Theater. Return to the magic of live theater with one of the most enchanting musicals of all time. Disney's Beauty and the Beast at the Fifth, January 12th to February 6th. Tickets at fifthavenue.org.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and I know we got a discussion that we're about to get into right now. My guy, my co-host with the most, Big O, made it back to the set. Man, Big O, man, you were just there at the press conference, man. Thank you for making it back. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, no, luckily we're close here to City Hall. Well, it was a lot, but one of the main things, well, you talked about that eviction moratorium. I know you guys talked about that earlier. Man, early this morning we got an email, but couldn't confirm it. But it was an email that emanated in SPU, Seattle Public Utilities, on June 8th around 6:40 at night, right? And in that email, the guy's basically saying that SPD and the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, which is just right around the corner, let them know that there supposed to be Proud Boys coming into the city. There might be a threat of Proud Boys coming into the city, this and that, everything else, right? And they should prepare. SPU should maybe, do this, move barricades or whatever. The whole point of that, and by the way, SPU, there's nothing wrong in this email about SPU or SDOT or anything, you know what I'm saying? So I just want to be clear with that. But the narrative around the report that came out was that it was just this one captain up there and the East Precinct grinning, who kind of came up with the idea and pushed it himself, that Mahaffey was kind of aware that something was happening, but nobody knew. But now there's an email that's been authenticated by one of the people who was on the email as genuine, where clearly there was communication that day on June 8th around preparation around Proud Boys coming up there to the Capitol Hill area. So, either everybody's got a hit on it, or these guys are so good with the hoax, they even hoax their own city. But no matter what, this whole thing of this guy kind of operating on an island and recruiting a few people, this email appears to show that that's not quite the case. Also, this email did not surface in the OPA documents as well. So it also makes you wonder what other emails or communications around this incident might be out there.
Oh my goodness. I mean, here we go. As I was just saying to Brian, I said things are coming out with this because, as Director Meyerberg even said, there was a lot of officers that would not cooperate. So there's probably so much more information that we will not know. And the ideas that Councilmember Herbold is saying, look, we understand that these ruses are legal, but what we need to be doing is documenting them so that there's a clear record of how they're utilized. How did you hear more about that?
I mean, this is what I'm saying. The whole conversation, this is a two-step, because everybody wants to take the conversation to, well, in the future we should do this, this, and that, and disregarding the present. I told people I want to have no conversation about changing any policy or changing anything until you deal with this. You know what I'm saying? People want to leave you, go home with a warm fuzzy. Oh, we changed this. We got it. Nah, let's deal with this issue right here. And Trey, the issue right here is people are lying. Yeah. And it's been exposed. You know what I'm saying? And it makes you leave. Now there's a paper trail. The funny thing is we did little engine that could. You know what I'm saying? And the emeralds on this story over there as well. But man, the people who got the least amount of resources, media resources in this city, is doing shit 99.9% of the lifting around here, man. Which is crazy to me. That, it's like, anyways, it just makes you wonder, because, okay, now there's a paper trail. You know what I'm saying? Clearly that's not our bag. You know what I'm saying? We don't sit in here and put in PDRs and this and that, but that is somebody else's bag. The stories out there, it just really comes down to whether, people care, if people in government care, if other media in this city care. Of course, we know the citizens care.
Yeah, but that's also, I think, the real testament of, independent media too, is because we don't have the luxury of being disconnected from these stories that hit our community. And when they hit our community, they hit us personally, they hit our families and people we grew up with, know and love. And the idea is that that's really where we drive our quest for knowledge, our quest for insight comes from, because we're really caring about the people that we're reporting back to. And that, to me, is a huge part of this.
Yeah, and it's not really my style, because this press, by the time I got the confirmation on this email, the press conference was coming to an end. But this is important, and we're sitting there, and here's the mayor, here's the police chief, here's the deputy mayor, Councilmember Herbold, and if we now have documentation here that's totally counter, to what was in the OPA report, and so does it answer everything? No. But it definitely now raises a lot of questions of what them saying, it's almost like they played themselves off like the Keystone Cops. So, it was kind of loose. It was this, that, I don't know. I talk about delivering bananas to the community center. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you read it, it's like, whatever. But now you see that it wasn't. You know what I'm saying? And these guys were talking and they're communicating and everything else. Also, like I said, I want to reinforce this, that although this email that we have originated within the SPU department, there's nothing that I'm saying here about SPU or any of their people that are over there. SPU was just one of the departments that was communicated with around this potential threat of the Proud Boys.
Well, I know that you also, I mean, me and Brian were trying to watch a little bit before the show, and I know that you also like posed a pretty large question about, you know, if the city is going to continue to investigate this and really see, you know, dive deep, like you're saying, no, this needs to be dealt with. What did you feel the response back was?
Yeah, well, I think regardless of the response, now we're putting out, like, it would be crazy, to be honest with you, for them not to investigate more, especially like at the executive level, because, you know, if all these things are occurring, and also it'd be interesting now, because now this is an email kind of thing. This is an email thing. And we heard Mahaffey said, hey, man, I don't know. Something was happening. I don't know. We heard Chief Best say, nah, I wasn't aware. Now it's the email thing. Let's see where these emails lead. You know, and in the email, it clearly said, do not forward this email. Do not disseminate this information that's in here, and all of these other things. And you see what's there, you know. And I mean, the crazy thing is like, I ain't want none of this. And meaning that, like, shit, we just want our life back, man. And, you know, it's like Groundhog Day. Can't move past this protest. You know, as hard as we try, can't move past this protest. But on the other side, we just can't turn a blind eye, you know what I'm saying, to what's out there. And, you know, it's just interesting. A lot of the dynamics that's taking place over there. There's still cases. What I asked as well, and the mayor on this, he's not in the best position to be able to answer it, but he was the only person I could ask a question to, is there's still protest cases in OPA. You know, and my question was like, man, wait, you know, can we just get this out? You know what I'm saying? Because you don't know what else is in the other protest cases. You see what I'm saying? It might be even more explosive than this. And then here we are again 3 months from now or 6 months from now. And I just think that the citizens, whether you are for the protests or against the protests or whatever, we just need a place of closure and understanding. First and foremost, I don't think there's anybody who's in favor of just not getting all the info out. You know what I'm saying? No matter how you feel about it. And so, you know, this is a real interesting development that's come out here. It's not by just the smoking gun or something like that. I don't want to over dramatize it, but it does now say that there was something completely different that was going on than what's in that OPA report. And this email, and who knows how many other emails, were not included with OPA.
Wow. I mean, there we go. I mean, it's something to definitely continue to keep our eye on. And I agree with you, Omari, when you talk about, can we just get it out? The idea is that it's been, you know, so long. I mean, I go all the way back to, well, you know, who was in charge of closing the East Precinct? I mean, we were it took so long to just try to figure those things out. And the idea is that is literally what's dragging a lot of this out, what's keeping it alive, what's keeping things up, is because there is no real closure around that period. There was a lot of things happening at the time. You've talked about it as wrongs all around. You know, there was plenty of wrong that happened, but these kinds of things need to be able to be followed up on. And particularly, I've been saying that the ideas of the examples that it poses in terms of what it could look like to reimagine, what it could look like as we move forward, how we can learn from all of these things that have happened, these gaps that were there. How can we make sure that those are not the way it is moving forward?
Yeah, you know, something else is interesting too. And, you know, that no elected politician wants to look like, you know, they've been lied to or anything like that. But, you know, Mayor Harrell said that he was over there at EOC and officer, the emergency management people. He said they asked him, did you guys know about this ruse? They said no. You know what I'm saying? I don't know who might be losing a job. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, this is, anyways, you know what I'm saying? I mean, and I'm gonna tell you like this though, on the real. This is news, and news that impacts our community, so it's important. But like, man, I had a real good show put together because, you know, yesterday with Sydney Brownstone, Rahima's family was watching over in Tanzania. But anyway, I got a bunch of stuff. We might save it for your Feel Good Friday.
Yeah.
Right, it was amazing. I mean, we really be on the uplift, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm tired of this police shit, man. Like we committed ourselves 2022. This is our year of uplifting Black stories and Black business and Black potential and Black beauty and everything else. And we've invested in those resources to be able to do that. That's the stories that we want to tell and uplift. And this is important. We're going to stay on this because I told people we're going to stay on the protest until it was done and resolved. But man, just know this don't bring me no joy, because all this stuff does is take away from the time that we could be creating and uplifting our people, man. And that's what we're here for. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a stand-up, this, I don't live for this. I don't live for, man, this email came out and this and that, somebody got lied to or whatever. I live for the uplifting of Black people through media, man. And it's like, damn, just want to get on with it, man. Can y'all just please release everything so people can move on with their life?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I got to say this, and I get to echo what they were talking about through the King 5 piece that you were on, and them coming right here to the Black Media Matters studio to interview. I love seeing that. But thank you for diving deep. Thank you for being inquisitive, because as many are now really understanding that it boiled down to you sending some stuff over to OPA to say, what's going on with this? And let's find the real track record of this. That's really what got us to this right here, this example. And it really is a testament to just you being like, hey man, what's really going on here? I mean, you didn't set out for all this, but you also knew something was fishy back then, bro.
Yeah. And I can't, I always have to bring this up, that man, speculation, spec, and that community that spec work with, because also, their work, they had everything indexed and time stamped and this, and I mean, saved hours and hours and hours of stuff for me. So, them, and that's just one spec in the community he's with. That's just one of several different communities, right? You'd be surprised. A lot of different people were following this for their own different reasons and everything else. But yeah, my mama was just in the comments. She was like, man, boy, you better go tell your stories. That's what we want to do. Like, man, I would just implore these people, man, whatever it is, just get it out. Man, do everybody as a city a favor so we can just move on. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like, anyways. I see we're over time, Trey Holiday. Thanks for waiting for me, man. You got any last words?
Absolutely. Always for me, man. See yourself as a part of the solution. I mean, clearly this story exemplifies what it means when people are doing their part to bring out solutions. Shout out to you, Speculation, everybody over there at the Spec team. Really appreciate being able to see how community comes together to get answers. And ultimately, all of us can be part of some amazing solutions, because there's plenty of solutions that are needed out there.
Yeah, no, good stuff. What's tomorrow? Thursday.
Yeah, we got Jules on the show.
Yeah, we got some handcrafted motion graphics. There it is, Julia Jesse, Converge Media, co-host of Clapback Culture. Julia is going to be in the building. Really excited for that. Always bringing a lot of energy over there. And also, we got the Rewind with Besa. Base is going to be checking in what's happening, events for this weekend and everything else. And of course, we're looking forward to Feel Good Friday, where you got T-Dub.
Yeah, T-Dub will be joining me on Feel Good Friday. Looking forward to diving in with her. Clearly, this opportunity around for culture funding, but there's always so much happening in the art scene. Can't wait to check in with her.
Yeah, no, good stuff. All right, everybody. Man, I'm going to tell you this, though. If you'll allow me, I've got at least, I got it 1, 2 just very good things for Feel Good Friday.
All right now.
You know what I'm saying? If you'll allow me to maybe add to your show.
Come on. Absolutely. It's a team.
Yeah, Friday gonna be real special. All right, everybody. On that note, want to remind you, and by the way, I need to preface this correctly, because we switched it up now. We're leaving you with some hope, and what we're leaving you with here, this is Shayna Shepherd. This is like a Converge Media exclusive here. Shayna Shepherd here in the studio, and she unreleased this song Hope, and she recorded it right here in the Black Media Matters studio. It was directed by Salman Abukwashi, mixed by BZ2 Slaps. You know what I'm saying? The name of the song is Hope. And so when you guys see this at the end of the show, that's what it is. So on that note, go forward in your purpose. Go forward in your humanity. And until tomorrow at 11 a.m. Peace.
What do I see through a lens of fear? 1,000 little steps to go. What do I fear after all these years? Lord knows I don't even know. I've been running on the edge of a sundial, sleeping in the shadow. I've been begging you to see me, then hiding beyond the unreachable. Looking out left on a right-hand turn, just trying to make a deal. A lazy shoes and love is a love that churn. That's the kind of food that heals. I've been searching for the end of an era, waiting to be ready. The world is bigger than a moment. Be steady, that's how you can feel it's real. But I feel naked in my new clothes, 'cause I got used to hide.